So, in my last video, I made a comment about my dad. And I have a video that I shot while he was in hospice care that I do want to share with people because there's a lot of lessons in that and there's a lot of value in that. Going through his fight with cancer was quite a lesson for me, to put it mildly. But I thought I should do a video because of my comment that made me stop and think to myself I should speak up and say something about things in general. First off, before I even get into anything else, so this video is going to be about what you're going to leave behind, but YouTube tells me that my viewers are all men. It's like 99% men, and something insane like 85% of you are in your 30s. That's my demographics, so I apologize to any 20-year-old or 50-year-old females watching this, but according to YouTube, 99% of my viewers are males in their 30s, right? So the first thing I want to say to you guys is forgive your dad. Start there. I know a lot of young men who are harboring some type of hard feelings or some type of resentment. Maybe you don't have a great relationship with your father. And the very first thing I would like to tell you is that you should start by forgiving your dad. Kids don't come with an owner's manual. They don't come with a textbook. They don't come with instructions. And so your dad probably made mistakes along the way, and it's because he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Because, well, none of us know what the fuck we're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just kind of winging it. And that's what your dad had to do too. He just had to wing it. What are you going to leave behind, right? On a personal level, and this also ties into forgiving your father, my dad was always really hard on me. He was really easy on my brother, and I always felt like my brother was the favorite. Whenever I was in high school, I had a bedtime. I had a curfew. I had to be in bed by 10. I had to be home, by 10. By the time I was a junior, it was extended to 11. That was a big deal, right? I had a curfew of 11 o'clock then. And my dad held me to a very high standard. Whereas my brother, well, he wasn't. My brother was allowed to quit things. I wasn't. If I chose to play a sport, my dad told me, you have to finish the season. You can never quit mid-season. You owe it to your teammates that you don't quit. So even whenever I had bad experiences and I wanted to quit the team and stuff like that, my dad always insisted you have to finish the season. School. If I struggled in a class or something like that, my dad did not put up with any of my complaining. There was no bullshit. It was like, figure it out. Like, you're a smart kid. Figure it out. Mind you, it was kind of weird because I realized that I'm a little different than other people. I don't think the average 6th grader was taking calculus, but for me, I ended up in this accelerated program, and so I was taking math classes that were above what you would expect for someone my age. And that's because I'm good at math, not because I'm good at anything else. I'm not good at anything else. But my dad always pushed me really hard, and he didn't push my brother very hard, and that bothered me a lot growing up. When my dad passed away, I went into his office to get his things, and he had a picture on his desk. He had a picture of me. He didn't have a picture of my brother. So, sometimes if someone's really hard on you and they're pushing you and you feel like maybe they're being unfair, maybe that tough love is because they believe that you're capable of more. Just throwing that out there. Maybe the reason why my dad pushed me hard was because he wasn't really just pushing me hard in general. It was more like, I want you to achieve your full potential. And so I'm going to push you hard enough that you don't slack off and don't be less than you're capable of being, right? And that's something my dad left behind. Me. Yeah. The reality is that the world doesn't give a shit about you. The world does not give a flying fuck about you. The only people that are going to remember you, well, let's extend this. Your kids will obviously remember you, right? For better or for worse, your kids will remember you. But outside of that, the people who will remember you are the people who you made an impact on, the people whose lives you touched. Those people will be the ones that remember you. The rest of the world, you're nobody. My dad's no one to you. You know, there's billions of people in the world that have no idea who my dad is. I talked about this in the video that I have not shared, and maybe someday I will share it. But my dad was in hospice care. This is the part that's really important here. So my dad had lymphoma. We'll talk about some of the details here. And his lymphoma metastasized. It spread. So he had lymphoma. It turned into head and neck cancer, and then it spread to his lungs, and then it spread to his throat. And we actually stopped tracking at that point, but I assume it probably spread to his brain as well, because his eyes started giving him problems. He wasn't able to see anymore. He lost his eyesight towards the end, which the doctor said is likely just in his brain, but there's no reason for us to put him through more testing and things like that when he already had, you know, the lymphoma, the head and neck cancer, the lung cancer, the throat cancer. It's like, well, now you're losing your eyesight, so it's probably in your brain. The calls is what I want to talk about, and the letters. Our phone rang all the time, every day. Different people. It wasn't like the same person calling over and over and over again. People would hear the news about my dad, and then they would call. A lot of them were young men. They were men in their 30s. And they were calling and thanking my dad. We got letters. There's a whole pile of letters. People thanking my dad. And I was like, what? Who are these people? You see, I don't really know a whole lot about my dad. When I was young, he was gone. He came back whenever I was in high school. We butted heads a lot. As I said, he pushed me really hard, and I turned 18 and I left. Went off to college. Didn't really spend any time with my dad. I regret that greatly. Don't make my mistake. Do not make my mistake. I am sharing this story so that you do not make the same mistake that I made. I went on and pursued my own life. I did a lot of different things. I have a lot of cool stories about stuff that almost happened. I almost did something amazing on more than a few occasions. Almost doesn't count, so it doesn't mean shit. But that's what I was doing. All these letters were coming from people who worked with my dad. Young men who, graduated from college and came to work, and my dad apparently was a mentor to all of them. People wrote my dad and told him that he was like a father to them. People told my dad how he changed their lives. People would call and talk about how my dad was the only person who was there for them during their divorce. My dad was apparently everyone's best friend. As I was reading through some of these letters, you would not believe the number of people who wrote to my dad telling him he was their best friend. Phone calls, constantly. People calling and talking about how they were so sorry to hear the news, and that my dad made such a huge impact on their lives. He helped them through hard times, whether it was they had a job loss, and my dad helped them through their job loss. They had a divorce, and my dad helped them through their divorce. Young men who had to relocate right? So they maybe lived in whatever state and then they moved for a job, and they were trying to get adjusted to living in a new city, and my dad befriended them because here they were in Pittsburgh and didn't know anyone. And my dad would be the person who would say, hey, let me, take you out and show you around the city. And he was their first friend in Pittsburgh and then became their best friend. My dad taught people how to golf. My dad passed away. People came to visit. I'll tell you one of the weird things. We're going to circle back to the fact that my dad had the picture of me on his desk. People would meet me and say, which son are you? And I'd say, I'm Chad. And they said, oh, Chad. He always talked about you. He loved you so much. Ralph always told me about you. Ralph always talked about how proud he was of you. That was shocking to me because he never said it to me. He never told me he was proud of me. But apparently he said it to those people. And I have to assume that they were telling the truth because there's no reason for them to tell me that. They didn't make that comment to my brother. They weren't like, oh, Joel, he was so proud of you. But consistently people would say, oh, Chad, he was always so proud of you. He was really proud of you. He always talked about you. But in any case, the part that I want to jump to here, and this is the part that's important, is the number of people who came by and told me how Ralph changed their life, and they would tell me, he was my best friend. I cannot believe the number of people who came and told me that my dad was their best friend. It is incredible. Letters, phone calls, people who came to visit the house, etc. People came and told us that Ralph was my best friend. I think that speaks volumes. How many people would say that you are their best friend? Do you even have a best friend? Do you have a best friend? You probably have one best friend, right? Are you their best friend? How many friends do you have? And of the friends that you have, how many of them would say that you are their best friend? That was something that really hit me. A lot of people came and told me how my dad changed their life and that he was their best friend. That is why I restarted the YouTube channel. That is why after a very long period of time of not making videos and occasionally just randomly posting some shit, I decided to start, well, shit, you guys can find me on IG, I've been posting a lot. And I try to post as much as I can, and I try to do these videos because I want to leave something behind. And I'm a nobody. I mean, what do I have? Like 2,000 subscribers, 3,000 subscribers? It's something very, very small. And even on IG, I have, I don't even know, like 100 some odd followers. It's not like I'm a popular person. I'm not. And I'm not trying to be popular. I'm not trying to be popular at all. I would rather have 100 people follow me and all 100 people say, Chad changed my life, than to have 1 million followers and just, I don't know, sell you guys something. I could be rich. Maybe you guys would buy my overpriced protein supplement or my overpriced coffee or whatever the hell it is that I decide to sell. Maybe buy my t-shirts. But that wouldn't mean as much to me as if I had 10 people come and tell me, you changed my life. That would mean much more. If 10 people came and told me, you changed my life, that would mean far more to me than any amount of money. And that's something I learned. My dad was in hospice care for a very long period of time. We were told he had less than a month to live, and he made it almost a full year, actually. He really fought like hell. During that time, I reconnected with my father, and I'm sorry I didn't do it sooner. I truly, my heart aches. I didn't realize how amazing of a person he was. And that's tragic. That's bad. And it's probably something that will, I don't want to say I'll regret it for the rest of my life, because we did reconnect. But I will say that I feel bad about the missed time. So thankfully we resolved things. Thankfully we, became friends, and I don't have any resentment towards him whatsoever. I don't have any anger. I don't have any negative emotions about my father whatsoever. But I do feel bad that I missed so much. I missed holidays, whether it was Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc. I was so busy pursuing things in my own life that I didn't come around much. I feel bad about that. It's a lot of lost time. And I think it's that thing that I was saying about in my video on longevity, where I said, if you think you're going to live forever, what would be the motivation of doing anything today? Because you have an infinite number of tomorrows. And I think that in my brain, I always thought there would be a tomorrow. I mean, my dad was only 65. I certainly wasn't anticipating that he would be diagnosed with terminal cancer at 65. I thought there was time left. I was wrong. And you're wrong too, because you probably think that there's time left. I assure you there is not time left. If you do have time left, it won't be enough time. I don't care what it is. Spend more time with your kids. Spend more time with your wife. Spend more time with your parents if you have them still. You won't have enough time. But the other thing I will tell you is, you want to make sure that things that you're doing make an impact. Leave an impression on other people. Leave things better than you found them. Do good. Do good things. Help people. What are you leaving behind? My dad didn't leave any money behind. My parents started off in a trailer, okay? And this is not like a rags to riches story. This is like a rags to, I don't know, not even middle class story, right? My parents were rags to not even middle class, but that's beside the point. What's more important, like I said, it's more important than money. What's more important is the lives that you touched along the way. I don't care if you're a billionaire. We have this weird thing in our society where it's like, if you have money, you get respect. You can be a shitty person. You can be Bill Gates. You get sexual assault charges and stuff like that. And that's okay, though, because you're rich. That's not okay. We should change that in our society. Having money doesn't make you a good person. Your value as a person is not even remotely connected to how much money you have or how much money you make. We should focus more on, are you a good person? That's your value. Your value is not in how many dollars are in your bank account. Your value is in how many lives that you touch, how many lives that you change. You look at things like, even, let's just mention John Meadows here, because I've talked about him so many times. Look how many lives he touched. Look how many lives he changed. Jordan Peterson is still with us. It always amazes me when I hear stories where people are like, I chose to not commit suicide because of Jordan Peterson. Wow. I can't imagine what that must feel like. Have you ever had someone come up to you and say, because of you, I chose to not kill myself? Wow. Talk about leaving an impact on people. Talk about changing lives. That certainly matters far more than how many dollars are in your bank account. So my point to you is, what are you going to leave behind? You should think long and hard about that. What do you want to leave behind? And once you figure out what that is, go do it. Help as many people as you possibly can. Leave something behind, because that is the only thing that is going to last longer than you.